Jeffrey is going to steal it back and then go over the head. Joel Jeffrey's got his third.
2 on 2, no mark taken. Brust, goal!
The wing, rising high and simply breathtaking.
Hello, I'm Damien Barrett. Welcome to Access All Areas. We are here, as always, for Crypto.com. Matthew Lloyd also is here, as always. And Lordo, it was Collingwood which returned to its high-end pressure in round 10 to cause havoc on the Dockers.
It was a perfect performance by Collingwood yesterday. They got back to the pressure that they displayed in the first 2 or 3 rounds up until three-quarter time when Geelong got a hold of them in that last quarter. But, Damo, they laid 89 tackles and 15 to 4 inside 50. So Dockers only laid 4 tackles inside 50. The Pies 15. This is what it led to. So they got them at the contest with pressure, and then once they won, they were just so dynamic on the spread. Even this, the big fella, Cameron, getting Brayshaw, who's been in great form, then advantage, Dacos picks the ball up, and they just opened up Fremantle on the rebound. It was an outstanding display, well coached by Craig McRae, and we'll talk about Longmuir soon. He was shell-shocked after the game, but it's this sort of pressure which was just outstanding. And then they win the ball back and they just repelled time after time.
And there was just some of their usual suspects in the key win, wasn't it, Lord? I mean, Jack Crisp, just by way of running out, plays well, and that always happens. Taylor Adams was good as well. Darcy Cameron had a good game, and obviously too, and I love this finish with this guy just continuing to do Jack Ginnivan things to cap the result.
And also Ollie Henry was the sub. Mason Cox goes down, and it worked for Collingwood in the end because of the conditions, and I thought Henry, 4 goals, he was a real match winner.
Particularly after his poor performance last week with the kicking at goal. Are there concerns for the Dockers? They lost in round 9 to the Suns and then a bad loss at home to Collingwood. Coach Justin Longmuir there post-match. He referred in his post-match press conference, Lord, to that being a reality check and that the club had got ahead of itself. I'm paraphrasing deeper conversations there, but there are worries.
Yeah, there are. So last week against the Suns, they kicked 4 goals 9 in wet conditions, and then they've kicked 6 goals 8 in wet conditions. So he's saying it's not the game style, but I think they play a sort of certain style that more suits dry weather football. So they haven't adjusted well within games.
So 6 and 2 becomes 6 and 4, and we're now not as sure about them as being a prelim final potential.
And Melbourne at the MCG this week and Brisbane at the Gabba the week after, so it doesn't get any easier.
This was the last game of a really good round 10 of matches. It also produced the Crypto.com Brave Play of the Week. Lotto, you're going to take some doing to beat John Noble's efforts here. Tackle on Switkowski, smother on Schultz, but we'll keep rolling here. He's not done with this passage of play yet. He's sore, he's banged up, he's hurting, he's out of breath. The ball finds its way toward him again in the next passage of play, and he's still good enough to take that spoil on lob.
He's one of those players that his magnet just wouldn't leave your coach's board. Craig McRae would absolutely love John Noble. Yeah, he'll make some mistakes every now and then, but he's got a huge heart, John Noble.
MCG next Sunday, Collingwood versus Carlton. Are they any hope, the Magpies?
Yeah, I'd have to say they would be, I think playing that way like they did yesterday. Carlton going as massive favourites, but it's great footy yesterday.
Yep. Like the Pies, Hawthorn started the season with 2 wins to open Sam Mitchell's coaching. They've got away from that in recent weeks, Lord. They had a difficult patch, but they've sent a message to the competition with what they did against Brisbane Lions yesterday in Launceston.
They've already exceeded what I thought they could achieve this year. They've been outstanding. Yeah, they'll have their down weeks every now and then. The way they lost to the Bombers was a really bad one, but beating Geelong and Brisbane already in the first 10 rounds, plus their other wins against lower sides, was brilliant. Got a great resolve. Sam Mitchell looks really controlled and relaxed in the coach's box. And like you just touched on Collingwood, it's a good mix between youth and experience. Some of the youth has been really good. Newcomb has been a star. Lewis kicks his 4 goals. But then you've got Sicily, who's doing his things in the back line, along with Shields. And Mitchell was back to his best yesterday. So that was an amazing win.
And you referenced the experience component there. Selection integrity's been part of what Sam Mitchell's brought. He dropped Liam Shields after the very first game, but played a crucial role yesterday, Lordo, on the 2020 Brownlow medalist in Lachie Neale. Now, this was Lachie Neale starting this game as he has this year, on a way to a second Brownlow medal potentially. The goal he kicked was dominant. But then Liam Shields and others, Connor Nash helped, but they shut him down in a way that I think other clubs will embrace.
Well, as I said, he's made a great start, Sam Mitchell. He got hold of Ed Langdon. So when no one else has shut down Langdon, he did that. And he knows when it's called a cooler these days, not more a tag, but if you need to cool someone down, you go for it. And that's where he's been really smart with his coaching. And he had 11 touches in the first quarter and then went 5, 5 and 4. Lachie Neale, so he did the perfect job, Liam Shields.
Yep. You don't ever want to downplay any win in a game of AFL football, Lotto, but it was hard to me anyway to fully embrace what the Giants did against West Coast Eagles. Now, for Mark McVeigh's first go as interim coach, it was very impressive. James Hird sitting alongside him there, Dean Solomon on the other side of James Hird. The game was done completely in the first 4 minutes when the Giants slammed on 4 or 5 goals, and then they just went about their business. I mean, it was a good start. They tried some things, but it was against West Coast.
Yeah, they'd understand who they were playing, but he made some changes. Himmelberg, who's been kicked plenty of goals for them, he went to the back line. They got off to a wonderful start, so there's no doubt that with a fresh voice and some new ideas, positional changes, they'll get a bit of a bounce, but they'll find out about themselves. They've got Brisbane at the Gabba this week, but here's Himmelberg just launching.
A torpedo out of the back line, Lotto.
They have been too safe with their ball movement, and I think that's one thing McVeigh will bring into them with some knowledge from the other coaches coming in, James Hird and obviously Dean Solomon. They're a bit more aggressive, I would have thought, with their ball movement.
Western Bulldogs squared their ledger 5-5 with a good win down at Ballarat, Lotto, against the Suns. Post-match, though, Luke Beveridge had some strange offerings.
Yeah, I've got to be really careful here. Yeah. Because he's been so dominant. And then, there are reasons why he wasn't in the second half. That's all I'll say.
Okay. That neglect thing at all? No?
No, we'll do some follow-up.
And we've done our own follow-up at afl.com.au too, Lordo, and we've had a look at the entire second half from an isolated camera perspective, and we could play 60 minutes of that if we wanted to. We're going to isolate and show you about a minute or so here. Look, this type of playing by Sam Collins on Norton, there's not anything unusual or untoward that was obvious to this watching.
No, this is a tape that every young defender in any competition should watch about how to work over a forward. If you want to give Aaron Norton a run and jump at the footy, you're asking for trouble. And they just engaged nice and early, and he didn't allow him to play the football Norton was a great player in the first half, and Collins
Three goals.
Three goals. I'm not going to give you that run and jump that you like. Have you
seen anything to this point that is free kick worthy?
No. I'm more going up in admiration for the way Sam Collins plays his footy. He's a best and fairest winner, and this is just brilliant. Not giving the forward what he wants. I've been there before. There's nothing worse than a defender who has touch on you the whole time.
And there's a bit of team system about it, but he's been exposed one-on-one regularly in what we're showing you here, and he's still at least squaring those contests.
Yeah, so Luke Beveridge said, I'm going to do some follow-up. I think the Suns might want to do some follow-up of their own to say, OK, you'd want to back up what you said because you're sort of putting our player in it. But we've had a look, and as I said, this is just brilliant defence. And we've spoken about Darcy Moore. We've spoken about players like Majdon earlier in the year. This is just good old-fashioned defence, and we don't see enough of it anymore. And it's just absolutely outstanding.
Yep. Now, unless something was said, and maybe that's what Luke Beveridge was referring to, but there's just nothing that we've seen.
No.
Now, I think it is now the onus is on him to at least privately apologise to the Suns because they were bemused with what he said post-match, and there's nothing obvious.
You would have thought maybe a call's already gone in, and I'll be interested to see the response from the Dogs. Even behind the scenes, we probably never find out. But, you want answers if you're the Suns.
They did shake hands post-match to those two particular players. Are there concerns from the goal-kicking perspective? I mean, I think that seems obvious from a Bulldogs perspective. Is that where he's coming from?
Yeah, I think that if Norton gets beaten, well, there's no Cody Waitman. He's out injured. And look, midfielders' goals. Mitch Hannon hasn't been there. Waitman's out. Jamarra Ugle-Hagan hasn't worked. Buku Khamis didn't touch the footy after half-time. So that's why Bontempelli's playing forward, because they've got such issues after Aaron Norton,
Yep. Well, the Blues are 8-2 after the opening 10 games. They did a really nice performance against the Swans on Friday night. There's a steal to what they're doing. They're hitting the key moments and facets of how you win a game of footy in a very impressive way.
Yeah, they've got their brand of football and they believe in it, and it just keeps getting them over the line. Yes, it's hard to sustain for 4 quarters, but they just get the job done early and they're blowing away teams with the physicality and also the pressure. So I want to touch on why they're winning. It starts in the clearances. So they're the best clearance side in the game. So they're outstanding. And it's not just Paddy Cripps. The Hewitt recruitment the Adam Cerra recruitment, the Kennedy form.
And what are they doing differently, Lotto, here? Is it just a non-panic moment that they're taking the second possession? Or?
Yeah, I think that's obviously, they haven't even got their best ruckman in Pitt net, so that's been great. So they just play the role really well. They're overpowering from a size. And then the forwards, it used to be Eddie Betts. Now it's Durden, it's Owies, it's Sam Fisher. The list goes on. Zach Fisher, sorry. Just keeps on and on. So they're locking the win clearance, lock the ball in their front half, and then when they have to win 1v1 in defence, they win it. And that's where Wiedering, Damo, what a player he is. And even Lewis Young. No Liam Jones, but Lewis Young has stepped up. And then Adam Sard and Doherty have been brilliant so far as halfbacks.
You mentioned that Pitnet was out, their first choice ruck. Their Coleman medalist from last year is out and will be for some time, Harry Mackay. They've also been without Mitch McGovern, who was starting to show genuine creativity down back. And Williams and Martin were also absent in that game. There's something about this. It's becoming compelling.
It is coming compelling. And when you believe in yourself like they do, it does powerful things. And some are saying, are they the most equipped to take on Melbourne because of the way they play their footy? I look forward to that matchup when it comes around. Yep.
If you take round one out of the Saints' season as well, when they lost to Collingwood, they've been as reliable and as mature as any club, I think, in the competition this year, Lordo. They were able to also celebrate Bradley Hill's 200th game. It's his third club. He's had impact at all three clubs, and he was probably the most crucial player in this win against the Crows.
Yeah, I thought they were just trying to get the footy in his hands too much last year. It was all about how can we get Bradley Hill involved in the game. He's now playing better footy himself because he's going and winning his own ball a little bit more, and there he was being celebrated for his 200th game over the weekend. But I like this because they had a heartbreaker against the Port Adelaide.
They did.
And then they got belted by Melbourne, and they've responded the last couple of weeks.
And we have looked and analysed St Kilda's recruiting over the years, Lordo, and all those names on that list have had question marks on them at some stage. But you put them together coming out of round 10 in 2022. They have all been crucial to this story. Yeah,
they've copped it hard, I think, for the Dan Hanbury trade and at times the Bradley Hill trade. But, they're good returns from all those guys.
Yep. You've been on the Jack Sinclair bandwagon, Lotto. I think you started the bandwagon. Is it time now we just lock him in off a half-back flank in the All-Australian?
Yeah, well, I think in the mid-season one that comes out soon, if he continues this, I think he's certainly in my half-back for the All-Australian side. So he may not be the... sometimes players are made to do it for a few years in a row, but if you purely make it on this year, 32 disposals he had on the weekend, metres gained, he doesn't waste a disposal. I think he's allowed Brad Hill to get further up the field. He's just having a wonderful season.
Well, there's some players at some clubs who just perform every time they run out. I refer to Dion Prestia specifically when I refer to Richmond. Regularly banged up, regularly playing sore, regularly not at his best, and yet regularly being their best and most important player. Best and fairest winner in 2019. And when he plays this year, having another nice season.
You're right with that. He has, like Toby Green, he doesn't take very long to come back after absences. Whether it's just in Green's case suspension, but Dion Prestia had so many soft tissue injuries, but he just picks up where he left off and wins so much ball. And he allows Bolton to play more forward, who's the star of the competition.
Getting the job done too with some injury. Now, Kane Lambert, who's had a history of hip problems, finished that game again, sitting on the bench for the same reasons. And there's a doubt as to when he returns, as there is over Tom Lynch, who went down with a hamstring. And he's been in arguably career best form in the past 5 weeks as well.
Massive game, Friday night footy, Richmond v Sydney at the SCG. Then they've got a bye, so it's a huge game for both clubs, particularly Richmond with those guys. Should get them back after the break. But both teams fighting for that, probably 5th, 6th, potentially top 4. It's a huge game.
Yep. Lotto, thanks as always for your time today on Access All Areas, and stay with the AFL Live app between now and round 11 of the AFL 2022 season. AFL.com.au. More Access All Areas next week.